I'm thrilled to welcome Mark Henry.
A lot of the answers are ancient, the old wisdom.
Engineer, inventor, and founder of Solid Teknics.
We're all trying to eat better food, but if you then go ahead and cook it on plastic, you can bet there's going to be consequences.
I feel like to move the masses, the discomfort needs to get to many more.
Like anything in life, once you know, you should know, and you should do something about it.
Welcome, Mark. Wow, Keshia, how great is the quality of your new podcast, Return to Wisdom? Oh, mate, I know. I have been recording at Byron Bay's premium content and podcast recording studio, Pod Byron. They are epic. It's new, it's fresh, it's legit, as you can see. If you want to upskill your brand, if you want to create a course online, this is the place to do it. Jump on at podbyron.com and be sure to check the show notes for a sneaky little discount on your first session. Pod Byron is where it's at. You! Welcome everyone to Return to Wisdom. Today on the podcast, I'm thrilled to welcome Mark Henry, engineer, inventor, and founder of Solid Teknics. Mark is redefining how cookware is made, used and passed down through the generations. With a background in mechanical engineering and a passion for sustainable design, Mark has built Solid Teknics into an iconic Australian brand known for its innovative one-piece iron and stainless steel cookware. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Keshia. Nice intro. That's basically, as an elevator pitch, that's not bad. But like all of these things, there's a lot more to it.
I like to do my research, but I feel that it'll give everyone a good indication of where we're going with this conversation.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Before we get on to cookware, I actually wanted to start with a movie that I saw a little while ago now called Dark Waters. Are you familiar with this movie?
Oh, yes, know it well. Excellent. Yes, it's about time.
Is it Mark Rufio? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes. Well, this movie was incredible, and it is based on a true story. And it goes into a company called DuPont, and they create Teflon coated everything. And he goes into, like, Mark Rufio is the lawyer who does the investigation around DuPont and where they have basically failed their workers in not disclosing the health effects or risks that come with exposure to Teflon. Now, this is something that is on our cookware.
Yeah, and variations of it are everywhere, even though some of the most obvious versions of those polymers have been banned already in Australia. Mm-hmm. Right, the PFAS is an obvious one to ban, but they've been fined fairly monumentally a couple of times in the USA for the damage they've done, and they're allowed to trade because they've made small changes to their polymers. It's still plastic coated cookware, and I've been saying for decades, even before the evidence is there, it's pretty much common sense that if you want to get good quality, well, any quality food, but we're all trying to eat better food, organic and etc. But if you then go ahead and cook it on plastic, you can bet there's going to be consequences. And so a lot of those consequences took decades to come to light because they were very good at their cover-ups, and they knew for decades that they were causing birth defects, that they were poisoning whole water tables, that these polymer chains were in everybody's bloodstream. Almost everyone on Earth, 97% of the people on Earth have these chemicals in their bloodstream now. And most of it comes from the non-stick cookware, because most people have cooked on non-stick cookware at some point, and if it wasn't that, it would be from the rainproof coatings on adventure wear or the fire extinguishers, etc., etc. They all use it. So worst thing of all was they knew it and they covered it up, and then they got fined in 2005 the first time that it came to light, and they were allowed to keep manufacturing with a little tweak to the polymer that they use. And they said, no, it's okay this time, don't worry, we got this. You're all going to be safe. This polymer is great. Forget about the last couple of decades of damage. You can trust us now. Well, looks like we couldn't ever trust them, because it's already, there's some serious questions about the new polymers. So nobody should wait another 20 years to see the real health consequences. It's pretty obvious we shouldn't go anywhere near these chemicals.
And these are forever chemicals that we're talking about that are in our bloodstreams and accumulate within our bodies. Can you take us through PFAS and PFOAs and basically how they come into our bloodstream from our cookware?
Yeah, well, PFAS, or that's an umbrella for a lot of chemicals. Like PTFE is the common name for what Teflon uses, but then there's plenty of other very similar coatings that fall under the umbrella of PFAS, and then there's some that don't. They're outside of that, but there's still plastic chains that are used for all these purposes, and including non-stick cookware. So, if you heat these plastic coatings, and they're meant to put warnings on the packaging very clearly. If you overheat this, it gets pretty bad. The amount of off-gassing of these chemicals is serious. It's not just if you scratch them up and they're visually looking a bit, dodgy. It's the gas that comes out of the plastic when you cook on it. So they say, no, don't worry, it's okay. As far as our tests can tell, there's no major damage until you hit about 200 and say 200 degrees Celsius, right? But what's true is that they start off gassing from very low temperatures. It's just that the levels rapidly increase as you get towards pretty normal cooking temperatures for steak, etc. Right? You're already definitely in the danger range. And they're also meant to warn not to have birds in the kitchen, because you will kill the birds. They say it used to be called Teflon flu, but they got that changed. It's called polymer fume fever. And if you don't know about it, you should Google it, because that's what happens with the off-gassing of these chemicals. You get flu-like symptoms and you think it's something else. Well, it's just your non-stick cookware. It got a bit hot and it poisoned you, If you put birds in the kitchen, it's the classic canary in the coal mine. They've got little lungs like us. It's just that the chemicals overwhelm their little systems, and they will be killed if they're anywhere near these fumes. So these are meant to be warnings that they give in advance, but somehow a lot of people don't know about them, of course.
I feel like people take them on board the same way they would take on pharmaceutical warnings. Like everything has the warning on it, the label, like this could kill you. And everyone's like, oh yeah, but whatever. I'm not going to be that person. And so when they do read these warning labels, it's the same thing. But I think what we really want to be honing in is the accumulative effects of constant exposure to that cookware. And I think the movie that I was talking about when we opened, Dark Waters, does highlight that, because when you're looking at the workers in these factories, yet the birth defects that these women were like pregnant women were experiencing, and I listed them because I was like, we got to know about this. But the birth defects were things like eye deformities and facial deformities.
Yeah.
There was kidney and testicular cancers were quite prevalent, thyroid disease, and immune system defects. So it's not nothing.
Very serious, very serious. And the fact that they knew about it for decades and covered it up, you know, and they're still trading. They got some fines that are nothing for them. You know, they laugh at these fines because they're making way more money from selling toxic products than they are being fined. You know, so it's the equation is fine by them. They don't really care if people are dying. If they're making a profit, that's what these big corporates do. You know, and it's been like that all through history. So that's another thing that's going to change. The new generations aren't going to take this shit anymore. They're going to say, no, you dinosaurs did all the damage. We think we got a better way to manage this earth. And first of all, we're going to refuse your marketing messages. We're going to not believe anything you tell us. We're not going to buy your products. And as soon as they stop buying these products, they'll disappear, because these dinosaur corporates and capitalists, they don't care what they make as long as they make money, right? So if people aren't making the money, if they stop buying them, they'll stop making them. It's that simple. While you're buying them, and that's why I always say to people, don't wait for government. So it was great that Australia just banned PFAS just earlier this month, you know, but it's only a small step. And a lot of US states are banning them. Europe starts to roll out their bans next year, I believe. But the problem is we've waited for governments for decades, and the damage has been done. We've trusted the big corporates for decades and generations. You know, you think about post-Second World War, when everyone started to accumulate consumer goods and convenience, and then the marketing machines went into overdrive, and then, best of all for them, people believed what they saw on television or read in newspapers, you know, and so that's why we're in this mess now. And so the younger generations they're looking at this and going, gee, we can see that you all got a long way off track because you believe the wrong people, and we're not going to fall for it. So the sooner us old dinosaurs get out of the way and let the younger generations take care of it, I think the better off we'll be, in cooperation with good AI algorithms that are going to basically show us how stupid we were and give us some clues about how to move forward, I hope.
Oh, well, that's a positive spin on AI that I haven't heard yet.
Don't even get me started, Keshia. Hey, I've been down. I feel it's partly my responsibility to really figure this out and stay ahead of that curve, because it is, you know, we're about to witness a monumental shift in the whole history of humanity. This is about to be the biggest shift in species on Earth. So we're here witnessing it. So I want to stay a little ahead of it. And to cut a long story short, I started out very pessimistic for humanity, with the coming superiority of a new species, but that shifted to positive, with a few caveats on how we partner in and cooperate with the best AI, not the bad ones.
Using it as a tool to our advantage rather than letting it take over, I think is where it's going to be at.
Yeah, sure. But hopefully, you know, we'll pay enough attention to learn enough to be better stewards of the earth. I mean, that's what will be, it's going to be a real mirror held up to us as humans to really highlight how simple we were and how many mistakes we made and we didn't need to. So I think we can learn a lot and we'll actually be better off in the long run, even if there's a little uncomfortable period, you could say.
Yes. I don't know how little that discomfort is going to be. I feel like to move the masses, the discomfort needs to get to monumental levels as well. So
it will. Yeah, there's no doubt. We only had a little taster with the pandemic. That was nothing. That was just a little test, but there's more coming.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why, I want to stay on top of it. And like you say, use it for the the good that it could be with that amount of intelligence and that amount of analysis, far superior to anything humans can do. We could learn a lot if we keep our eyes and ears open, and if we can avoid the bad versions of AI gaining the upper hand. That's all.
So if for the younger generations out there, the up and comers, from your standpoint, what would you suggest in terms of healthy lifestyle, where to put your money, where to invest your time and energy?
Yeah, good question. I think really a lot of the answers are ancient, the old wisdom, the really simple way to say it is look at what our great grandparents did. They just ate whole foods. It was nothing special. That's just what you did. There wasn't prepackaged and processed foods back then. They also bought products that were largely handmade or simply made, but very durable. And they wouldn't buy many products, but they would keep them their whole life and they'd repair them and look after them, etc. I think that's the way we're going to return to, and the younger generations will figure that out as well when they see all the mistakes we've made. But I'd say, in simple terms, say as it applies to, cookware is a good start when we talk about the toxic soup that we're all swimming in. It's everywhere, and we can't always. We're not even sure which human-made things, chemicals or products, are doing the most damage because there's such a toxic soup all around us in homes and all the products, etc., the drugs we take and etc., that you got to start with the simple ones and the obvious ones, and anything in, whether it's the food or things in contact with the food, like cookware, pretty easy place to start. If you're ingesting stuff, if you're breathing stuff, that's where you should look first. And simplest one of all is just no non-stick cookware. Just don't do it. It's obviously a problem. Everyone should know that by now. And if you're still buying it with that knowledge, well, it's like anything in life. Once you know, you should know, and you should do something about it. Not everyone does. But then the next level, I think, coming soon is not just toxic products, but disposable products, because of the damage that's done. Even if something's non-toxic, if you put a lot of energy and a lot of resource into making it, then you throw it away rapidly and it goes into the landfill. Well, you've just taken an earth resource from a concentrated form where it can be found and used for good things. Like a lot of these materials are great. They can really do a lot for humanity. But once you start extracting them all and using them up in meaningless consumer goods, and then they're thrown in the landfill, well, you can't use them again. They're gone, And apart from the the toxins and the poisoning of the water tables and the land, etc. And then there's the apart from losing the resources, there's the ethics. Think about the people manufacturing these things. Look at the conditions a lot of these consumer goods are made under, the people, and what they've got to suffer, and think of their health. The lifespan of these workers in these factories and mines, etc., pretty limited and pretty horrible lives. But if we keep buying them, there's going to be a capitalist willing to enslave the people and make them. It's that simple. Not good enough. So, it's a matter of paring back your expectations on consumer fun. I think, fun products are going to become a ridiculous concept in coming generations. We're just a bit slow. We're still doing it. But pretty soon that'll be considered pretty ridiculous. And that's one area I think AI will help. They'll say, well, what if you just do this and this and eliminate that and think about it this way? And they'll help us shed some light on the dumb things we're doing at least. Then it's up to humans to, listen and take some action, I hope. And too late for my generation. We're the ones who caused most of the damage. Your generation, a bit better, but the next generation, the kids, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I believe so too. I feel like there's enough information circulating these days that we are starting to move towards more of this sustainable local mindset, using materials that last and bringing back, like, cooking everything from scratch and creating our own preserves. Like, I know so many women who are making their own sourdough now. It is such a trend. Yeah. It's fashionable.
Yeah. And there's lots of practical things that aren't fashionable. And in the future, we may not have a choice. You might not be able to walk down to a store full of packaged goods anymore. You might not be able to buy fossil fuel for your vehicle, your 2-ton steel cage to go get some bread and milk in packages or go have a coffee with your friends. That might be ridiculous in the future if things get a bit rough, Even the expectation of always having flowing water coming from a tap or electricity, it's not guaranteed forever. If we get this wrong, if we really manage this earth badly, then those things could become difficult to access at some point. So having an eye on your backup plans as well, food, shelter and water is pretty basic. You need a plan because there won't always be access to those things guaranteed if things get rough. So that's part of, what I've got an eye on. I've got a 92-acre permaculture farm with lots of food forest, and it's mostly perennial stuff. I don't really like seasonal things, and doing the ploughing, sowing, reaping, and the whole process seems a bit labor intensive to me. So I like things that go on forever, self-seeding or runners and tubers, and things that just create a food forest where you can forage for things that go on and on. So I've changed my diet a bit to use perennials instead of seasonals a lot, and having the marvelous spring-fed billabongs and dams of Kinkin is a big advantage too. With the shale layers here, there's a lot of spring water around, and it's good quality, and bore water. So water security, food security, and electricity security. I'm completely off grid. I've got no connection to the outside world. But it's not easy to do on this scale, but it can be done on smaller scales as well. Quarter-acre blocks, or a bit of shared communal land, or friends, who've got acreage, get a bit involved and figure out what they're doing in terms of food production and water, etc.
Yeah.
It's not a bad backup plan. Even if we hope for the best, we should have a plan B,
I agree. True story. I used to get panic attacks. And when I went and investigated this, it turns out I had low iron, something 1 in 3 of us have. Now, regular iron supplements, gross. They're full of synthetics. Your body doesn't even absorb it. And be honest, inflammation. So when I found this supplement, I just had to share it with you guys. It is Great Spirit. They are organic, synthetic free. It is all whole food based and they're produced here in Australia. I cannot believe the difference I've seen in my energy levels and no panic attacks. So if you want to check them out, you can head to greatspirit.com.au, use the code Keshia20 for 20% off your first order and enjoy feeling good again. I feel like there's a few ducks that I need to get into a row for those, but my husband and I definitely have plans of land at some stage.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be all yours. You can share it.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of ways to do it, but some connection to the land, I think, will be increasingly important as things get a little wilder out there, you could say.
Wild and woolly. I'm kind of hoping that the wild and woolly stays predominantly within the cities. Like people can go
It'll
really
be extra
crazy.
wild and woolly. Yeah.
And as we've moved out of the cities, it just gets a bit easier to breathe and we're a little bit more buffered from the real wild and woolly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think just by sheer dumb luck, I was born kind of at the right time because I did all my city time, in the 80s and 90s. I had a blast, the noughties, living in some of the great cities of the world. Yeah, I lived in San Francisco for 7 years. I lived in France for 8 years. I spent a lot of time in China back in the mid-90s when it was, a completely different thing. And they still had a lot of... there was still a big connection to their ancestry and their descendants. That's what attracted me to the Chinese. Of course, it's changed a lot now. But having said that, now I've done all that and I don't even like to travel and I like being on my farm. So it's just sheer luck, I guess, that it's synchronized with me becoming a hermity old farmer type,
Oh, it sounds like a good trajectory, like a good
Just luck.
timeline of how to do it.
Yeah, well, I guess I always had an explorer's heart. I was pretty keen to get out there in all its forms, whether it was cities. My motto was always, generally, the correct answer is yes. When something comes up, do you want to go do something? You want to try something? You want to learn something? You want to experience something? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Of course. That's what life's for. It's pretty short. So we better get into it while we can and prepare for making some contribution, preferably beyond our lifetimes. The classic old leave the world in a better place than you found it is possible for everyone, really, when you think about it, whether it's just relationships or thinking of a way to be a better steward of the earth, a better caretaker of a piece of land, or to regenerate an industry that's toxic. That's my little thing. That's what I did with Solid Teknics. I said after I sold Fury Techniques, that was in 2008, I started Solid Teknics in 2014. And so that 6-year gap, I did some design projects for old French companies and things like that. But I spent most of that time writing my manifesto for the second half of my life. And I wasn't willing to start another business until I could figure out how to regenerate a toxic industry and basically replace it with something non-toxic and durable. So durable that if people buy one of my pans, they'll never buy another pan for their entire life. of that style. You know what I mean? So hopefully they buy lots of different styles in the end, because we'll go out of business once everyone's got one. You know? And that's what the capitalists always say to me. They say, "What are you doing? Once everyone's got one of these pans, we're all out of business." I say, "Great, my job's done at that point." And I'll have to
Fantastic.
move on to something else. Because these pans, I sat down for those 6 years, planned out my principles and wrote them down in black and white, to be sure that I wouldn't compromise at some point, that I wouldn't bend my ultimate legacy, non-monetary legacy goals for profit, just for commerce, you know. So the very simple way, and I'm a simple guy, I know a bit about engineering. I know how to come up with new products that work better. So I figured out if I could make non-toxic cookware that lasted for centuries and centuries, each piece, and it was made locally under our environmental and our human controls. So, you know, a lot of good care during manufacturing. And if people caught on to, if they realize that they shouldn't be cooking on toxic cookware at some point, and they get mine, then they'll never buy the toxic cookware again, and that stuff will disappear. And it's kind of happened on a small scale. You know, we're a reasonably big company now, and we're getting a pretty big market share in Australia, in particular, and exporting to a number of countries. We're doing okay in the UK and the USA, etc. But it's the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, and I can only do so much. I'm no genius, so I've just got to show people in my little sphere of influence what's possible. And if they like the look of that, if it's my actions speaking louder than my preachy words, they say, wow, it is possible. You can manufacture something in Australia and you can survive. It is possible to make a product that lasts for centuries and works better than the so-called high-tech products out there. It is possible to regenerate a whole industry like that. And so hopefully I'll inspire other designers and manufacturers in Australia. Or if you're living in the USA, you've got to hope that your local manufacturers will do the same, and et cetera, around the world. Make it local, make it last for centuries, make it non-toxic, and we'll be automatically much better stewards of the planet doing that, because when you think about it, to manufacture, say, one of my pans, sure, it still takes iron ore and it takes energy, and then you've got to ship it, etc. It's a bit of pain, you know, it's a bit of damage in the beginning to get this pan in your hands, right? But when you think that this pan that you've bought now will last your entire life, then you'll hand it on for 10 or 20 generations, 500, 1,000 years is my best estimate for these pans, because there's no way to crack them. You know, they're malleable materials that I use. They don't crack. They're one piece of the whole pan is made from one piece of a malleable material, so it's impossible to destroy it unless you wear through it physically over time, just cooking with it. So it's going to be many hundreds of years, you know. So when you think about that, the being a useful product for all those centuries, the cost per annum of that product is so close to zero that it's like magic. You know, it never really cost anything, time or money or resources to make. It costs zero in the long run.
I do have my Solid Technic pan and I love it. It's such a good size and weight, because we had other cast iron pans, and I know that it's wrought iron. We'll go into the difference between those two.
Wrought iron.
Yeah, but my Solid Technics pan is so much lighter. It's so much easier to maneuver. And I felt like I was going to break my arm every time I lifted my cast iron pan from the oven.
Weight's a big difference. Big obvious difference. We're about half the weight of cast iron.
Yeah, it's wild. But it's such a beautiful and easy cookware option. So anyway, what is the difference? I would really like to know, what's the difference between cast iron and wrought iron?
Oh, I'll try to keep it brief, but I'm an engineer, so watch out.
Use mum terms.
Yeah. And, I try not to bore people, but what it is cast iron is made by pouring molten iron into a sand mold, a two-piece sand mold. And then you crack the sand away and you're left with the cast, whatever it is, in this case, cookware. And that's okay. I mean, it's okay as a concept, but in practice, it's got some pretty big limitations, and weight is one of the ones that's most obvious. But what's not as obvious is cast iron cracks. It's in a crystalline state because of the casting. It hasn't been worked. So it's actually more fragile than it looks if you drop it onto a hard floor or thermally shock it with cold water, then you'll crack it. And that's why there's not a lot of old cast iron in museums around the world. I mean, the really old museums of Europe, etc. And what's there is usually cracked, old sculptures, etc. So the way wrought iron cookware was actually the standard for about 3,000 years, and people don't know the history. The start of the Iron Age, they figured they could get cast iron, so they could cast iron into a blob. Then they could hammer it out, and then it wouldn't crack. Magically, they thought it became something that was, very durable, and it wouldn't crack. So then they go, well, if we heat it up red hot, we can beat it into any shape. And so then came, the weapons, of course. It was one of the first things humans thought of.
Of course.
But the cookware, But the cookware was very early in the Iron Age because the bronze cookware they were using, stone was fine but very inefficient. So they used bronze, but then if they put acidic foods into it, they'd get a little bit poisoned, so they didn't really like that. So then iron came along and they go, wow, it's really conductive, it's non-toxic, and look what happens when we cook with fats and oils. It turns black and the food doesn't stick to it. It's a natural non-stick. That was the first natural non-stick over 3,000 years ago, 3,500 years ago. So that's why wrought iron was really the standard for thousands of years. The Romans used it. The Roman soldiers carried it all through history. Iron, wrought iron. And you see those still in the museums, not cracked. You could still cook on those, if they haven't rusted away because they've been in a really, but the ones that were buried in, say, a mud or something, an oxygen-free environment, you could still cook on those. They're fine. But what happened a couple of hundred years ago is they figured out how to make casting of iron very efficient with the big crucibles and the methods of heating them to make the iron molten. So it became the cheapest way to make cookware. So people don't realize it was kind of the poor person's wrought iron was cast iron because it had all these disadvantages. It was twice as heavy. You could crack it. It took much more energy to heat it up. It's slower to heat up because it's not very conductive, cast iron. And those little short fat handles that get just as hot as the pan itself. You had to think about that, when you were using it. So I knew all this from, being a mechanical engineer in this industry for 3 decades helps, but also by spending time in those museums. I've been going to Europe for decades and lived in France for those 8 years. And I could see it. I could see that it was probably worth getting back to that if we could figure out how to make them a lot easier than beating them with a big hammer. We got to figure that out. And so I figured that out. I figured out how to use machines to work the metal into shape. And so that's why they're wrought iron, but they're worked into shape by machine. And it had never been done. So I patented that. And that's the only reason we can survive manufacturing in Australia is because the cheap offshore factories can't copy us because we own the patents. We invented this whole method of making cookware. And then the stainless steel, it was the other thing I wanted to tackle was stainless steel because even simpler, zero maintenance. If I could figure out a way to make stainless steel as conductive as wrought iron, if it could be non-toxic, so it would have to contain no large amounts of nickel. That's the next thing coming up. Once they're all discovering they should be cooking on either, iron or stainless steel, because there's not many other good alternatives that are durable and healthy. Problem is, almost all the stainless steel cookware has high levels of nickel in it. Nickel, it's a heavy metal, right? So it leaches out of the cookware, and there's studies all over the internet, university, PhDs, etc., who measure the amount of nickel that leaches out into your food that you're cooking in that vessel, and it's partly dependent on the acidity. But my best tip after all that research is if you buy a normal stainless steel pan or a pot, boil water in it, fresh water in it, at least 4 times and throw that away. Don't eat from a new stainless steel pan because the nickel will have leached out. It mainly leaches in the early days of the pan, and then it slows down, in other words. But anyway, I figured it out, and because there's many types of stainless steel that are completely different to each other. So our particular stainless steel, we have it made in Finland for us. We can't make it in Australia. That's the one thing that Australia doesn't make is stainless steel anymore. A lot of people don't realise that all the stainless steel is imported. But we get a special type of stainless steel made for us in Finland. We bring it in. And it's a non-nickel stainless steel. It's more conductive, way more conductive than nickel stainless steel. And that's how we can make cookware from stainless steel in one piece. We can use the same method, the same patterns as our wrought iron, but with this special stainless steel. And so that's also, it's a world first. No one's ever made a one-piece stainless steel pan in history, and still haven't, because we own the patents. So it's something that Australians pioneered, and there's some massive advantages to a one-piece non-nickel stainless steel pan that people are starting to figure out.
No, it's so good because I've definitely had cast iron with a wooden handle, and the wooden handles get very flimsy and scary to use. But no, having those one pieces and I guess the ease of it as well. And so a little story for everyone. We used to Airbnb our house, and we had a cast iron pan for our guests, and the number of complaints we would get because it was not a non-stick pan. It's still unless you used an obscene amount of cooking oil, it would still stick. And our guests would complain about this constantly, and we're like, but we're not going to let you cook on Teflon.
Yeah,
there was no.
They were mad.
Yeah, there was no other alternatives, and people wanted Teflon. We're like, no, we're not letting you cook on that in our house.
Yeah.
Sorry, food's just going to stick to the fan. So yeah, and I couldn't believe that with the wrought iron pan, and I think we treated it. What's it called?
Seasoned it.
We seasoned it, and it is like this perfect non-stick pan now,
Yeah.
and healthy, and I
Yeah.
don't need to worry about Teflon
Easy.
flu, and I don't need to worry about birth defects for my children.
Forever chemicals.
Forever
No.
chemicals.
You
I
got
know.
natural, non-toxic, non-stick that you maintain yourself. You don't need to run to another manufacturer and throw that one in the bin. You can maintain that non-stick, non-toxic for your whole life now. And once you know, you would never touch plastic coated cookware ever again. So we're trying to get the word out that we didn't invent non-toxic, non-stick seasoning. It's been done for thousands of years, but we're just bringing it back because people forgot after a few generations of being really spoon-fed. They thought they were cooking on Teflon. They weren't cooking. They were heating food to an acceptable level and then sliding it out. But it's what happened with the cast iron cooks in your Airbnb is they didn't really know how to cook. Because if you get the right temperature, the right timing, and some fats and oils, cast iron will be non-stick, stainless steel will be non-stick. But it's just that the wrought iron, because you've seasoned it well, it's going to be that extra bit better non-stick and very slippery and really approaching Teflon for non-stick, except it's non-toxic and it doesn't get worse with time. It gets better with time. That's the difference.
Oh, it's amazing. I'm so glad that you have used all of your information and all of the wisdom you've collected and all of your travels and infused it into this one incredible product that it's made my life easier. Having 5 kids, I do a lot of cooking, so it has certainly made my life easier, and it is the amount of relief being able to purchase a non-toxic product and know that I am not accidentally poisoning my children slowly it's not incomparable. So no.
Yeah. Yeah, word's getting out. I mean, a lot of good people like you are figuring it out. You're not believing the marketing spin anymore. You're not believing the big corporates and even the regulators who are meant to protect us. You can't trust these people to make the decisions for you about what's best for your family. You've got to take matters into your own hands a lot of the time and use a bit more wisdom than is common out there in consumer land.
That got lost in the generations somehow too. It's
Yeah, oh, for sure. But that's changing. Like we said early on in this chat, good things are happening. It's just, I get frustrated, and I bet you do too, because it's way too slow for us. I want everyone to know overnight, and change overnight, make the world a better place overnight. But it doesn't work like that. We're kind of slow creatures, we hang on to our habits and we believe other humans too much and believe the wrong ones, and we don't trust our own instincts enough. That was taken away from us from birth when we started to be educated and domesticated into these systems, the cultures, the institutions, the languages, everything. We're not the pure babies we were born. We're something else. And in a lot of ways, to do the best for ourselves, humanity, and the planet, it's not about learning a whole lot of new things and doing a whole lot of new things. It's unlearning, and it's stopping doing things more than anything. So people are starting to realize that. But of course, the people who stand to lose a lot of money from the lack of purchasing of their crap products are going to be squealing. They're going to be screaming at us to keep buying their products because their own sponsored scientists said it was okay. They'll be doing that. They'll have their marketing campaigns. Look at the greenwashing that's happening out there now with all kinds of products. And I bet you see it. We definitely see it big time in our industry. Look, ceramic coated non-stick is meant to be the the new solution. Hey, it's non-toxic, but it's still non-stick. This is great. Problem is, those things last about 6 months or a year before they stop working, and they're all going in our landfill at a rapid rate. So that's why I say just being non-toxic really isn't good enough for the planet. It's got to be non-disposable. It's got to be durable as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, watch out for those greenwashing solutions. They're everywhere.
Oh, well, if people want to avoid that and come find you, Mark, where can they?
Well, solidteknics.com, TEK, solidteknics.com. And then in the stores, all the best cook shops have got our stuff. You know, it's not the cheapest, so you won't find it in the chains of crappy imports. You'll find it in the real cook shops. But they're listed on our website, or buy direct from us, even better, because then we get a margin we can survive off. Put it this way, if we sold all our products through retailers at their current pricing, we would have been out of business a long time ago. It's really only the direct sales that are subsidizing the losses that we make by selling through retailers. But the crowd has really helped, because when we launch interesting new products, we launch them first to our own lovers group on Facebook. That one's situated. But that's the inner circle of our best supporters, 22,000 people who really love what we do. And so we offer them the lowest price, and then they get in and they help us develop it. Then they might wait months and months to receive the product, because they're along in the development journey with us. That's what it's all about. But the practical beauty is they pay up front and they wait. And so we use the money to pay for all the tooling and all the manufacturing, so that's why our prices are reasonable and competitive, like, you know, compared to the better quality imports. We're not crazy. And it's because all the tooling's been paid for by our best supporters in advance. So we don't need to amortize that across all the rest of our sales.
Yeah, wow. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
quite the community.
It's something that works. Yeah, it works. And I've been saying to other Australian manufacturers, they say, oh, why do you launch direct to your customers? And the retailers say it too. And I say, well, for those reasons. And otherwise, our products should be twice their price. The retail price should be double if we had to recover all our tooling cost over time, because these are massive investments in the dyes and tooling to make these products.
I could imagine. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for coming on, and thank you for bringing such an incredible product and company into life and into light, because it's really hard to find products with a rich history and story behind them that are ticking all the boxes of being ethical and sustainable and healthy. So I really appreciate you coming on today, Mark. And
yes, thank you.
Yeah. And
yeah, thanks for having me, Keshia. And I love what you're doing. You know, these ripples spread out. Anyone with a voice, you know, if you're sending out the right messages, you're making an impact. And that's why I love meeting people like you and contributing in a small way, you know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for Solid Teknics.
Yeah, thanks, Keshia. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks for joining me today. If this ignited a flame for you, please share, follow the show, and leave a review. The more support and subscriptions the show gets, the more powerful and credentialed guests I can bring on to deepen these conversations. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next week.